Hi there, how you doing? My name is Robert Bartlett, and we are going to go over the elevator trim tab in the Cessna 172, the trim system. So we're just going to go through this step by step, and we're going to learn about the trim tab. So this is a picture of the trim tab and the control in the cockpit. And as you move this wheel forward or back, up or down, it controls the trim tab on the elevator at the back of the plane. So it'll control this part here, which will move up or down, and it'll exert force up or down on the elevator to help it stay there. So anyway, there's two types of controls in the airplane. There is the primary and the secondary, and the trim tab is part of the secondary controls in the airplane. The trim tab, it's a small control surface hinged at the trailing edge of the elevator like we saw in the picture. And when activated, it deflects into the wind, and I'm going to show you an illustration in a minute which shows it pretty nicely. And it uses airflow to apply opposite force against the direction of the elevator. The trim tab neutralizes the pressure that's required on the flight control. So if you have the control wheel and you are trying to push the nose of the plane down or pull it up, you're going to feel pressure, and the trim tab will relieve that pressure, which can help prevent fatigue, and it'll actually make your flight smoother if you use it the right way also. So in this illustration, which I have here, it just says if constant back pressure is needed to hold the nose of the airplane up, you use the nose up trim to relieve the back pressure. And so what you would do is move the trim control to nose up direction. And so it says nose up right here, and nose down that way. And it almost, like, I kind of picture it as if you're turning it this way, the rotation is almost pointing the nose of the plane down. And if you're turning it this way, the rotation, I just envision, just a little trick that I use, I envision the nose going up. There is also, right there, it shows where you would want to have it for takeoff, which is basically, even with the plane of the elevator. And one little trick that I do is when we're in the run-up and we're getting ready to take off and I'm checking the controls, the flight controls, even though that white mark would be in the middle, sometimes it's not always exact. So whenever I'm checking the flight controls and checking the elevator, I look back and make sure that trim tab is even with the rest of the elevator. And then this example just shows the opposite. If you're holding forward pressure to keep the nose of the airplane down, you would use nose down trim to relieve that pressure, and you would just turn it that way. This is a really good illustration that I got from the King Schools online, the Cessna training online, and it just shows if you're trying to keep the nose up and you're pulling back on your control wheel, your elevator is gonna be up. So anyway, as that's going on, there's pressure that's pushing against it, and what happens is if you adjust your trim tab, the trim tab would come down, which would help cause the airflow to be pushing your elevator up, which helps it happen by itself. So as you adjust it, you'll feel the pressure relieve on the control wheel. So that's just an illustration of how that works. And what you want to do is, before you set it, you want to set your throttle and set your desired pitch, and then you check your pressure and then on the wheel, and then you adjust it with the trim tab. And then an improperly trimmed airplane, it'll make it so you always have constant control pressure from the pilot, which can cause tension and fatigue. And it'll also make it so you can't look around outside your airplane as much because you're always adjusting the controls. So the trim tab can help you in that respect also. A common error with this is sometimes over control with the trim tab, and you're always adjusting the trim tab. You don't want to do that. You want to get your pitch right, and you want to get your throttle right, and get your pitch the way you want it when you're flying, and then adjust your trim tab. You don't want to fly the plane with the trim tab. So that is basically an overview of the trim system. Thank you.